Hey KW, this is Mike, and this is a class recording of T301, which is how to enter and how to enter a listing into Flex or MLS. It is Flex right now, but there are different companies, but we'll just call it Flex or MLS either way. Most of today will be screen sharing, so I'm going to get this going pretty quickly. We're going to actually put in a listing right now. So this is a real-time thing going on. We'll see how it works. So let me share my screen. And we're going to start from scratch. So we're under the assumption that you've already gone to the house, you've walked through it, you've done an analysis, you've talked to the people, they're like, yes, let's do it. You've done your employment agreement, all that kind of stuff. So now you have to put the actual listing into MLS. I'm here at the main screen right now. When you log into Somo, you get all these different options. First thing we're going to do, and I'm going to show you a couple shortcuts I do, but remember, this is called Flex because it is very flexible. There are so many different ways to do things. So first thing I want is my tax record on this property. You can get it from CRS or RPR. Is RPR here anymore? There it is. I just I started learning on CRS, so that's what I use. So I'm going to open that up, and you're going to see we're going to have multiple windows open up here at a time. So the house we're doing today is 1199 South 21st Avenue in Ozark. And if you dealt with Ozark, you got to realize there's a difference between avenue and street there. Okay, so here's all my info. Interesting thing on this one, there's no red sign here. If there's a little red house icon right where I'm pointing, that means it's been on the market before. If it's a green one, it means it's currently on the market. So this is all my tax record info. You'll notice in Christian County, there's a little discrepancy we have to look at. It says 1,862 square feet. That is not the house only, that includes the garage. This is typically what they call the base level in Christian County. So here's my owners, where they live, more info on the house, the taxes. There's no mortgage. They bought it outright. They use it as a rental property. There's no foreclosure history. Here you see what I was talking about. See the base area in Christian County. That is usually what the tax record is showing as your finished square footage on base area. So if it's a two-story house, you're going to have to get it measured some. So this gives us all the info on the house. The main reason we're here, though, and here's flood zone. You could click on that and it'll take you to the nationwide flood panel to show you if it is in flood zone. But X is the very bottom. That's the 100-year flood, actually 500-year flood. So no flood insurance should be needed on this. Okay, the reason I'm here though, I want to do this as simple as possible. So I need this tax record. So I'm going to copy it and save that as we go back into Flex. So here's Flex. We open up the box. And this screen may look different for you. You can customize this to however you want it to look. I like seeing my current listings, my calendar, which doesn't show a whole lot because you have to scroll down, but I like seeing this on top, my Greene County absorption rate. So we're at 1.8 month inventory, which is low. Okay, right across here is your hot button bars. These you can put in any order. They actually come from the menu. Anything I've starred shows up there. So I put up the things I use most often. You can put these in any order you want. But today we need to add a listing. So we're going to click Add Listing. And you'll see all these tabs across here. You'll see, do not click that button until you are ready to make it live. So every time you get done for right now, hit Save and Complete. And this bar is going to be important also. You see all fields, required fields, empty fields, next, back, just to help us navigate through, get rid of that thing down there. So first thing, it's going to walk us through this in order. General property type is a residence. You see the other choices. Most of what we're dealing with on the residential side is a residence. Co-listing agent, it's just me, so I don't need to put anybody else in. If it was a parent and child, and what that means is if you had a farm with 10 acres and they could also buy it with 100 acres, you'd put in the main one, the 100 acres is the parent, and then to save you having to redo everything, you put in the child with 20 acres, saves you redoing a lot of the stuff. But this is just a normal house, so we don't need that. So I've got my general tab done. I hit next. Here's your address info. You can go through and type all this in if you want, and you'll notice things that are pink. These are required. You have to have these filled in before you can make it live in MLS. Here's why we copied though. We're going to come over here and hit Christian County. And then we're going to come here to tax ID and paste that tax ID. And notice mine had a little space at the beginning. I got to get rid of that. When I put my county and my tax ID and populate tax data, it should put it all in for us. Let's see if it's going to work. And for some reason on today's, it is not working. So we're going to try that one more time. We're going to come over here. That should be our tax ID. Maybe I copied something wrong. Go back to here. 99.9% of the times, this does it. Make sure I'm in the right county. I didn't check that. Am I in the right county? Christian. Okay. Populate tax data. And naturally today it's not going to cooperate. So you get to see the long way to do it. Okay, my street number, 1199. Modifier don't need 21st Avenue. Don't need post direction, don't need unit, don't need that. I do need city, Ozark, Missouri, my zip code. Cannot believe it didn't do that on the one I'm trying to show you. But this way you get to see the long way also. I'm going to cut and paste that. I like the full 9-digit zip code usually. It's not necessarily, but it may not even take the whole 9. It's not. 65721. This one I know is outside of city limits. So I put no, not inside city limits. Okay, so now we have our basic info, and you do not need the things that are not pink. If it was an apartment or condo, you need building, just for clarification for people and unit number. Okay, if I put the address in right, it'll now take me to the geocoding site. You want to hit satellite, and you want to make sure this is pointing at the right house. I know that that's the right house. I like to put it right at the front, so if somebody's trying to follow it in on GPS, it will help them, and you click use this location. Oh, look, it's giving me 2 different choices on how to put it in. It says this one will help more accurately, and you can see it had the S in there. So I'm going to go ahead and use the geocoder address. It'll just make it work better. Okay, now we're ready to start entering. It jumped me to the main fields, and you can see all the main stuff here. Pink is what's required, so let's just work down through it. Again, it's a single family. It is not an auction. On single family, you have to tell if it's a vacation rental or not. This one is not. Vacation rental means nightly rental, like you're renting an Airbnb, that kind of stuff. Begin date, I'm leaving blank because I don't know when I'm getting with them to sign that. I myself go out 2, 3, 4 months, and I put it in the middle of the month on my expiration. Now, why do I do that? I used to do 6 months. In this market, they're not lasting that long, and I put it in the middle of the month because if you put it at the end of the month and it does get to expiration, you're trying to do that paperwork in the middle of when most closings happen. So middle of the month is a little bit easier, so that's why I just typically use that date just to keep my schedule easier later on. Okay, I'm pretty sure we're going to list this at 175. I can change this before I make it live, but that's what I've talked about with the sellers, so I go ahead and put that in. This will automatically populate. Don't need this. It's not a parent. It's not a historical district. All these things are helpful if you have a house that would stand out, like in a Roundtree area, but on this one it is not. It is not a foreclosure. So basically, after you do general and address, we're just filling in the fields. Reserve comment, this house is totally empty, so there's none here. If they were reserving like a chandelier or a TV or something special, you need to put those notes in. Phone to show is how the agent calls to show it. This, I'm going to put VLB, which means vacant lockbox. They can just go to the lockbox immediately. Agreement type, I have them, they've already signed for me an exclusive right to sell. That is almost always what you're going to use. I've never used anything else. Let's put it that way. Sign on property. Yes, I will be putting my sign on the property. Subdivision. Okay, it automatically knows a bunch of them, but I go back to my tax record, Knoll Ridge, and see all this other stuff, Knoll Ridge, Autumn Meadows. It might show up under both of them. We're going to try the Knoll Ridge and see what shows up. KNOL. There it is. So that will work. Cross street is not necessary. I don't use it a lot anymore because most people use their GPS to get there. Taxes, how much were they? Well, let's go back to this sheet. Last 2018's taxes. So Christian County is a year behind on this house. I'm going to round up 1468. 1468, and I'm going to tell them it was tax year 2018. Legal description. Again, you can go back to your tax record. Where's my legal description? There it is, right there. So I can cut and paste, and that's why I like having this tax record open. I don't like typing over and over and over. And honestly, typically that thing where we try to autofill at the beginning, if that works, it puts all this in for you. That's what I was trying to show you that. Owner name. This is so they know who to put when they are doing the a contract for you. And again, it is right here. Crothers, David A. Let's just cut and paste. Make it simple and make sure I don't spell their name wrong. I am going to move it though and move the Crothers to the back. Owner phone, they do not need that because it's a vacant house. They're just going to go show it as their own. It is vacant. Occupant name, you have to fill something in. I don't understand that on vacant, so I just always put vacant. It is a 1-story. It is Ozark Middle Schools. It is Ozark High Schools. I have not put in the elementary because I'm not sure yet. So you can leave these things because if you go to Ozark, you have Ozark East, Ozark North, South, West. So I've got to do some research and make sure I've got the right one. Actually, I have already. This should be Ozark South. I'm going to double check that because people will buy a house based on what school it's in. So you got to make sure you've got that correct. Bedrooms. It is a 3-bedroom, 2 baths full. It is all pink, so I got to fill all these out. Above grade finished square footage. Okay, back to here. That is my base area, 1536. So I put that in here. This is just a typical ranch house. So there's no above grade unfinished. There's no below grade of anything. You have to put in this range, 1400 to 1599, and total of all. So if you had multiples here, you have to add these up, and they should all work together. I do not worry about count above grade. That is more for metropolitan areas. Square foot provided by assessor. That way, if somebody says, the house is smaller than you told me, I didn't tell you, the assessor said that. Approximate year built. And again, we go back to here. All your info is right here on the tax record, 2007. 207. There are 2 garage stalls. And garage stalls can be, that is how many parking spots total. That is garage stalls, attached, detached, carport, any of those things. You're going to tell exactly what kind of parking it is later, but how many stalls are there? Now, I don't do driveway spaces or parking spaces, but anything like this I do. Okay, lot size. Well, Christian County sometimes has it, sometimes doesn't. Let's see. I'm not seeing it anywhere. Usually it's right here, acreage. All right, so you can do the math and you can figure out how many acres, or you pop this out to the view larger map. Okay, here's our lot. And check this. I'm going to measure it, area. And I'm going to put a click here. And there. And there. And there. And that showed me it was 0.23 acres. Okay? 0.23. Now, lot size provided by, I'm putting assessor because I pulled that off their map. Technically, I should say me, but on things like this, I'm going to put assessor. On acreage, that's a whole different story. We're talking about residential basic homes right here. Waterfront view, there is none. So then I don't have to tell which lake. All right, marketing remarks. Here's where you're going to tell everything you can about the house to make it sound awesome without going insane on it. Like, I don't put this 3-bedroom, 2-bath house because that's already up here. It shows them 3 bedrooms, 2 baths when they pull up the listing. This is, and what I do to fill this out, I go to the sellers or the owners and I say, what do you love about this house? And I use what they tell me that they like as a way to fill this out. So there's a lot of different marketing remarks there. That you can put in. Agent remarks. This is where you could put things like, I always put in, seller does not pay, and I have this saved somewhere where I can just usually pop it in. Seller does not pay commission on concessions. I have a fancier wording for that, but anything you need to let them know, I always put this also. Actually, let me just pull up my, now I use transaction desk, don't tell on me. I've just not switched over yet, but I will have that soon. But I know where my clauses are in here. So in transaction desk, under my settings, and you can share these, you can save these on a Word document. I just had them here already, so I knew I was going to go to them. My clauses, personal clauses. None of this screen will make sense to you, so don't look at it. There's my wording. So I'm going to cut it, and you can just have this in a Word document and keep bumping back to it. Seller does not pay broker fees on any seller-paid concessions. Preliminary title work is underway at Choice Title and Escrow. Earnest money expected with offer. You may use a different title company. You may not want earnest money. These are things you can put in, or these are things that you need to let agents know, but not the public. This does not go live. Directions. When I go back to the house, I'm going to drive in the simplest way, and I'm going to put the directions. And I will do that as I'm, the reason I don't do that yet, I'm going to drive it and put directionals. Then I'm going to mark down where I've put my directional signs. That way I can go find them after the house sells. So directions we're going to skip right now, but that's where you put those in, and those are required. So that you just want to drive them in the easiest or the cleanest way. Now here's something that's not used much. Office remarks. This is if you want to put a note to just people in our office, meaning Keller Williams. So if there's something you need to let our people know, this does not go out to other agents. This just goes to our office in-house. One spot a lot of people are using this, let's say you have a listing and then they've got to take it off the market to print or paint some walls or something. You could put a note in here to tell them that they are the house is going back on the market. They do not need to call. It's not an expired. They're just painting, but that just goes to our agents. Okay, so that's the end of our main fields. Next, details. Okay, here's a lot of different things. Listing broker is, we are seller's agents. Actually, we are designated agents. I need to be putting that on there too. Okay, as Keller Williams, we are designated agents. We are designated to work with them by the employment agreement we sign. So that goes there. Commission. On this one, we are offering 3%, just 3%. In other words, not $3. If we could share $3, that'd be great. 3% to a buyer agent, 3% to a sub agent, 3% to a transaction agent. That way they know how they're getting paid if they show your house. These things are not required. I do not do them. How to show. This is a vacant lockbox. I have a super lockbox on there. In Greene and Christian County, you have to have that unless there's a situation with a seller that does not want one, but almost always you're gonna have the Supra. View, this is more for lots, like if it's a golf course, panoramic, river, you know, if it's an acreage or a beautiful setting. Basement, this one does not have one. If it does, you would then tell if it's a full and if it's full finished, or if it's partial, or if it's a full basement but partially finished. You mark everything that you think is important for people to know. Utility room, in this house it is on the main floor. Kitchen dining, kitchen bar, kitchen, any of these that are applicable. This house has a kitchen dining combo. I love when you put kitchen bar or island also. Attic, well, this one in the garage has pull down stairs and it is partially floored above the attic. Other rooms, you want to mark everything that applies here. You're trying to think of any way somebody would search for this house and mark the things on it. Okay. So this house, the bedroom master's on the main floor. On a ranch house, there's not a lot to choose from here. But once you get into 2 stories, basements, if there's 2 areas or if there's 3 plus areas, I mark it as 2 areas and 3 areas. That way it comes up for either search. Any extra room you have, you put here. What appliances are staying with the house? Okay. Don't put the fridge unless you're sure it's staying. Don't put the microwave unless you're sure it is. On this house, we have a freestanding stove, electric. We have a dishwasher and a disposal. Do not check a dryer if it's not going. Ice maker, that does not mean there's one in the fridge. This means a separate ice maker. Okay, we also have a microwave on this house. Okay, equipment. Now, I always talk with I fill out most of this form before I go back to the house, and then I sit down with them and say, what am I missing on here? You want to make sure they're looking through this to know anything that's missing. This house does not have a fireplace. If it does, you mark yes, and you tell everything about it. Okay, here's something I learned recently. Don't click gas logs unless you look and see gas logs in a fireplace. I did that on a house. It was one of those glass bead things, and it came up that there were no logs on the inspection because I had marked the wrong box. So do not mark something here unless you have seen it and you know it's there. Same on interior amenities. I'm going to wait on filling these out until I'm sitting there with the sellers and going through and saying, okay, we have this, what stays, washer dryer hookup. All these are things that will help sell the house. So you want to put the things that are required. Flooring. I typically, some hints here, if it's hardwood, I mark hardwood and wood. I have no clue why it's in there twice, but I'm trying to think how would somebody search for it? I want them to see it every way possible. And quite honestly, I never put laminate unless it's a high quality laminate because that's a turnoff to some people. So you got to look at this sort of like the dating website. What things are going to be appealing to people? I never mark which tile unless I'm absolutely sure. Just mark tile. The difference is like ceramic to porcelain. One of them is 0.005% less porous than the other. So if that matters to your people, you'll need to search out which type of tile it is. Most people just mark tile. Cooling. This one has ceiling fans. It has central heat or central cooling. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong one. It does not have an attic fan. You can see other choices here. Cooling is from an electric source. I see very rarely other stuff on that. Heating. This one is a central unit. It is forced air. It is not a heat pump. Don't put that unless you're sure. And it's none of these other things either. Okay, my heating source is natural gas. What kind of gas is going to the house? Natural gas. It sounds redundant, but some people search by that type of thing. Water heater. In this house, it is a gas water heater. Certified green. These are touchy-feely things that can help. If the house has a 90% furnace or higher, mark this. This one does not. If you mark that, that's also a high-efficiency HVAC. How do you tell on this? Simplest way on a furnace is if they have the yellow sticker still on there, it'll tell the rating. If it doesn't have that, check the flue. It cannot have a plastic flue unless it's 90% efficient or higher. In other words, there's so little heat coming out, the plastic won't melt. So that's what I always look for is a plastic flue on that. So 90% furnace, that's a great thing. I don't mess a lot with these unless I have actual verification they're there. On solar panels, are they there or are they leased? That's a big thing. Programmable thermostat, that's easy to look at. If it's a Nest, make sure they're not taking it with them. So these are all your different things there. What type of house is it? Well, this one is a 1-story ranch. It was traditional. That is what I use on almost every ranch house. If you're in Roundtree area, you've got bungalows. Sometimes you got Cape Cods. You have all these different choices. Mark as many things as are accurate, but don't mark something if you're not sure. Exterior extras. Well, this one has here's how I look at it, a covered front porch and a back patio that's not covered. That's the way I look through it in my mind. Okay, the front porch, you always think of a front porch. Back is usually a patio or a deck. This house does have gutters and downspouts, and you just want to look through for anything else that you think would be appealing to people. What type of garage? 2-car attached garage. These are in a strange order to me. I don't know why they are, but they just feel that way. If you had a 2-car attached garage and a 3-car basement garage, and you can mark as many of these as you want. So the more you have, the better. Outbuildings, you can only call something one thing. So you can't say, well, it's a shed, and it's a storage shed, and it's a workshop. Which one is it? You can only do one. Fencing. Notice this does not say who owns it, because sometimes in a subdivision, somebody owns part of one and part of another. I mark everything that applies though. If it's wood, if it's privacy, if I know it's shared, if I don't put it there. If there's a chain link fence too, anything and everything there. Windows. This house is double pane and tilt in. Mark what's accurate on there. This is a brick front, so it's brick partial. And then it's siding vinyl. Okay, mark what's accurate on here. A lot of people search house by brick all, so don't mark that unless you're sure. And that doesn't mean like if there's a window bay that's like stucco or something that's like, like just a window portion of the house. If it's 95, 98% of the house is brick, you can call it brick all. Poured concrete foundation, that is most common. Where'd it go? A lot of times we will see concrete block. That is not a problem. They're built that way. Just make sure your inspector is checking it. My roof is composition. Lot, this is more on acreage. This is, what can be on the big things. This house is a city water. It is city sewer. If you're unsure on these, ask the owner. If it's a well that's shared, you need to get the shared well agreement. You can't sell the house till everybody signs it anyway. So get all this stuff up front. Septic, find out where it is. Let them know they may need to uncover it for an inspection. If it's a shared septic, which are rare, find out the details. The more you know going in, number one, it shows you as a professional and helps someone that's writing a contract. Road frontage, I don't do these a lot unless it's a acreage and they're wondering how to get to it. You can if you want. To me, it clutters up the page with stuff that a lot of people don't worry about, but these are totally up to you to fill them out. Association, if it's a house owner, if it's a house in an HOA, mark everything that matters. Okay, if it's got a boat slip, and that boat docks and boat slips are a whole other story. So when you're dealing with those, you got to know who owns them, the rights of them, how they're transferred. So just realize boat docks are a tricky issue. This house has no HOA, no COA. You can have both. An HOA is a homeowners association. COA is a condo owners association. There are areas that have several condo associations inside an HOA. So some houses have an HOA fee and a COA fee. Like Stonebridge in Branson is one of those. They have, I think it's 6 different condo associations in there, but then there's also a huge homeowner association. So you got to have both. Will sell. How will they sell the house? They will take cash. They will take conventional. On this one, it qualifies for FHA. It also qualifies for USDA. If you're not sure on that, put it into the USDA website. Just Google it, and you can type in any address, it'll tell you. We'll also do VA. I would encourage you to never do these: assumption, contract for deed, exchange, lease purchase, owner carry first, owner carry second, unless you're absolutely sure what you're doing there, because those can get tricky and hairy, and there's a lot more involved with them. Flood insurance. Before you check this, ask them, are they paying flood insurance? If they are, they will know it. On a house this size, it'd be about $2,400 a year on top of property insurance. They are not on this one. When is possession? We'll give it to them at closing. They give our sellers money, we'll give them the house. Here you can mark what documents you're adding to the listing, but you do not have to do that. Okay, what type of warranty is available? I'm going to talk with them about putting one on because I think it's a great selling feature, but for the moment I'm putting private company available. But you'd be amazed how much that helps sell a house and how it covers it during inspections. Okay, financing was just added about a year ago. I don't do this because it's redundant to will sell. So I don't put this. I don't want to fill up the page with extra things. Okay, that's our details. Then there's rooms. I like to put my room measurements on, and I put them in the order I walk through the house. So my entry on this house was on the first level. My size, because I measured already, not really, I'm putting this in for sample, 6 by 8. You can put any notes you want on it too. You can put as many rooms as you want on here. Some people like it, some don't. Some agents say, no, that makes people not come look at the house. I prefer to have men, but that is totally your preference. Okay, that broker distribution. Do not check these. Seller directs listing to be excluded from internet. No, you want it to go to internet. Seller directs address to be excluded. No, listing to not be used. You want it going to all these places. This tells where it's going to be distributed. So in fact, this is the first time I've opened this tab in a long time because you don't need it. Okay, now let's double check ourselves. All these, right now we're showing all fields. If you want to make sure on where you are, you can say required field only, or before I make a listing live, I go to empty required fields. So it's going to show me anything I've missed. Under main, I don't have my beginning date or my directions. I'm not going to click address because it's going to geo search again, so I just assume I have that right. Details, look, I have everything in that's required. Rooms, they're not required, so I don't need to. I'm going to show you this field also. Required fields only, it will just show you the pinks. Okay, so we've got most of this listing in on the details. I'll go back and clean it up, and I always send it to the seller with some things highlighted saying, please verify this before we make it live. Okay, we're going to hit save and complete. And it's now saved. And it takes me back to this page. We were working on the listing info. If you want to print that form we were just doing, you go to this right here. But I'm going to show you how to load photos. So you go to photos, and you hit add photos, and just like any other software right now, you can add up to 100 photos at once. It takes a little time, but I just go into my file, and on this house, I've not had a photographer out yet, but let's just go to their names. So I've got 4 photos on it. I can select them all, hit open, and it's loaded my 4 photos. And then I can mark which one's going to be the highlight one that shows up on the internet. I can rotate it. I can call it front yard. Front yard. You can add notes on it down here. You can change the order. The way I typically change the order is right here, but I believe you can drag them too. So once you get 50 or 60 photos in, I typically do it as a walk through the house. I start at the front. I don't do too many outside front pictures. I go to the front entry, the living room. I walk them through the house in order just because it gives them a better flow. Okay, so that's all you do to add photos. You can delete them. You can upload a replacement. You can rotate them. You have all these choices, and you can load. I think the photos are almost unlimited anymore. Okay, documents. Here's where you add your disclosures and everything else. The first thing I always put in is a form called the My Favorite Things. So I'm going to go into a file, and I have not made one for this house yet, so we're going to just show you My Favorite Things. Clients, Griggs, and you'll notice I have everything filed under people. Okay, here's the My Favorite Things of a house I just listed. So we're going to put it in. I call it My Favorite Things, and I mark public because I want the public to see this. So I've added it. Now it shows over here as My Favorite Things. Then I can go add my disclosures. Where are my disclosures on this one? Disclosures in Condo Writer. Obviously, I'm just using this as a place filler for right now. Disclosures. Did you see on some, it showed you in the past, I've used upgrade list, measurement disclaimer. I typically put all my disclosures together. That way the other agent opens one file instead of a bunch. I mark it public. Some people want private. I want everybody to see it. So my favorite things, like this is a condo I just listed last week, but this is what it looks like. So the sellers tell me what they love about the property, and I put this in so everybody else can see it. So that way they're selling what they love about their home. So that's where you put your documents in. Let's go back to the edit listing screen. This is where you add your videos and your virtual tour. After that, you make sure it's all fine and set up, and then you go back into your edit listing. And once you are ready, you hit the magic button. I'm not going to do that because this one's not ready to go live yet. The minute it does, it's going to give you the MLS number, and it's going to be live in the system. So you should have a checklist for what your next steps are. and your coach or some of the training people can show you what their steps are on that. I'd be happy to share mine too. But this is the basics for getting it live in the system. We are going to go back again, save and complete. So I can show you one other thing I do. I always go back to the sellers. I want to make sure they know what I've put in and that they feel that it's all good. So see this print or email this listing? You can view the report. You can print the report. The input form was what we were working on just now. So if I hit this and I keep a hard copy, that way I've proven, and not really a hard copy, I do a PDF, but this shows everything we've done. And I usually go in, make this a PDF, and I highlight the areas I want them to double check. I want them to double check my marketing remarks. I want them to double check my directions and anything like appliances that are staying. So I highlight and I say, can you double check this? Make sure I've got everything the way you want it. Then if they have it all done, you can save this as a PDF and then send it for signatures. Here's where all my rooms would go if I did those. Okay, so that's the basics. Let's shut that. For putting a listing in, and then you can make the flyers and it's accessible for all the different things you want to do. Go back to our edit listing screen. And I'm going to stop sharing. Alrighty, so that should help you see the basics for doing that. Here's the main rule. First few times you're doing it, ask for help. Have somebody look over it before you make it live. Make sure you have everything accurate and you have proof of where you've gotten it. Nothing worse than to put like 3,000 square foot and you say, well, that's what they told me. You need documentation. You want to prove that what you're putting in, you know. So hope this helps. Give me a call if I can help with anything else, but that should get you through T301, putting a listing in.